This is TWiT. We are learning what Redstone 2 is? What do they call it?
4.
4? I don't even know. Redstone 4, which will be the spring update?
Whatever it's called, yeah.
What will it be called?
We don't know still, which is crazy.
By the way, that's the question du jour.
I know.
So you're just going to make up a name.
Yeah, we just keep calling it Redstone 4. Sometimes we call it 1803 because it's supposed to be RTM'd around March 2018.
Right.
But the reason we wanted to talk about it a little bit today is yesterday, after having no builds for a couple weeks, Microsoft dropped a giant test build of this. 17063. It has a lot of stuff in it. As Paul said in the notes, a metric ton of stuff.
A metric ton, yeah. Well, no, I mean, this release is different in many, many ways. And one of the big ones for us, people who kind of cover Microsoft for a living, is that they never had an event where they described what the name is and what it constitutes. And a few weeks back, Terry Myerson sent out an email to insiders to tell them about 2 of the big features, sets and timeline, which may or may not make this release, which is another new thing. And I feel like, and I think we've discussed this maybe, that this big bang release that we just saw is kind of taking the place of that. This is probably representative of the release. This may be what we're getting.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff.
It is. So yeah, timeline is in there. The feature that helps you pick up where you left off. It's an extension of the task view in Windows 10. They promised that this would be in this build, and it is. And some people are getting sets as well. The Windows management thing where you can group tabs together. So far, only very limited number of apps. But I did see some people saying on Twitter yesterday they had sets. So those are the 2 biggest things. You don't? Did you actually get the build installed finally?
Well,
I know
as
you were
I
having
noted on Twitter, so far the score is build 17063 to Paul 0. But what I did since then was the computer I did get it installed on, which doesn't work properly. It's treating it like all of my applications are protected by Windows Defender Application Guard or whatever that's called. Yeah. I just did a reset. Actually, I haven't tried it since then. So just before the show started, I did a reset, and I think it's okay. But maybe I shouldn't think that, because who knows if it's okay. So actually, I know. Maybe I should look. I don't know.
You should look and see if you have sets. I'm curious if you, because I'm curious if
I'm sorry.
Oh, you don't?
That I know. I don't.
You definitely don't. Okay.
No. I'll be adding it. Let's just say.
You'll be adding it somehow, in some way.
Yeah, somehow.
But there's other stuff too. There's a lot of new Windows subsystem for Linux features in this. There's lots of that fluent, blurry transparency stuff in there.
So, sorry to interrupt, but it still has the same block. I can't use it. The build is unusable.
Really? Oh, man.
What's that?
What PC is this?
What are you talking about?
It's this one's a Surface Pro. I couldn't get it installed on an HP Spectre X360. What happens is I try to run like command line, for example, and it comes up with a dialog that says, your organization used Windows Defender Application Control to block this app. Contact your support person for more info. Just to be clear,
Stephanie.
I signed in with a local account. I'm not using an MSA or an Office 365 Azure AD account, whatever. It just doesn't work.
Mary Jo, did you mess with his computer?
Yeah, I just thought this might be kind of fun. Actually, somebody's pointing me to a tweet from Donna Sarkar that said, for FYI, for people having trouble installing this build, and there's some suggestions around removing peripherals and others turned off device installation settings to no, and then the install would complete. I don't know if any of these would help you. Probably not, given what you're doing. But yeah, it's not going smoothly for everyone, but some people are getting this and getting to see all these things. What else was in there? So lots of new Fluent stuff, redesigned settings app. Windows Subsystem for Linux gets a whole bunch of new features. And this one was a good find that Paul saw. Edge now supports service workers by default, which means here comes progressive web apps. Yep. So that's in this build is the foundation for Microsoft supporting progressive web apps. And their post on this yesterday said, we'll be saying a lot more about this in the coming weeks. So that's in there. Some new things with Cortana. Like there's like a lot of fit and finish, polish, but then sets timeline, Windows subsystem for Linux, some really big things too. You look concerned. You're still not working.
Yeah, I was telling Raphael today that this is how I lose days, well, this and Call of Duty, in the sense that it takes a while to get the stuff working. In some cases, so I have 3 computers in front of me, all of which I've attempted to install this thing on, none of which it has worked on. And it's getting problematic. So I will, I can't troubleshoot any of this on the show. So, by the time we're done here, it's going to be 4:30 in the afternoon, and I've spent all day on this. I mean, it's ludicrous.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. So I would say if you're somebody who is in the fast ring or skip ahead ring and you've heard about this build, go read the notes. And there's like pages and pages of notes about this build. And there's also a separate Windows Insiders post from Brandon LeBlanc about sets specifically. So some more additional detail on what they've got in sets now and what's coming in sets in terms of the kinds of apps that are supported and the way tabs work. So there's a lot of stuff. This, if you're looking at this as your holiday present, you have a few days to unpack this if you can ever get it installed, like Paul.
So despite my inability to rise to the standard of a typical beta tester, I would say that sets and timeline in particular are actually incredible major new features. And I've, complained over the past couple of releases that some of the stuff they put in there doesn't necessarily impact a lot of people. But actually, I feel that both of these things are super important, and they both touch on productivity, multitasking, whatever. Yeah. And I think will impact everybody. And, I think everybody knows, or a lot of people know, that in Windows 10, the initial version, they shipped a virtual desktop feature, which is useful for power users, but actually has major limitations for any user who tries to use it, and is not approachable or discoverable by normal people. I don't think anyone, like many mainstream user, would ever use this feature. Timeline puts that on its head, kind of, and it's kind of the opposite. It's both discoverable and usable and approachable by mainstream users. And unlike virtual desktops, it's persistent, and it's persistent across devices, which is maybe the most exciting bit. So we don't see the mobile half of the equation today, but Timeline will be available on your phones as well. And that means you could bring up, Cortana or OneDrive or Microsoft Word or whatever it is on your phone, and you'll get a little pop-up of some kind. We don't know what this looks like yet. This says, hey, you were working on this activity yesterday. Do you want to continue that here? Because you have some apps that can run, load those documents or whatever you were working on. This is big stuff. I mean, this is legit useful productivity enhancements to Windows. It's kind of the opposite of the baloney that I've complained about in the past, and that's nice.
And a little bonus for you IT pros, they threw this in the post too, Windows Defender Application Guard, the thing that isolates malware and exploits. Yeah, that thing that Paul is bugging Paul.
It works great, folks. Let me tell you, you can't run anything.
It's been an enterprise-only feature, but with this update, as of this build, it's now also in Pro, which is very nice.
Confirm it. It's there.
It's there. You see it.